Smoak.
Yesterday, Sam Kahn joined us, theathletic.com. Remember, he was embedded with the University of Houston, going over what they were doing with the transfer portal. Max Olson, I think a better story with him. He should have been embedded with you watching the transfer portal. It is crazy. The numbers are nuts. It's left and right. Your thoughts about where we are now a week into this?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. You know, we've surpassed 1,000 scholarship FBS players in the portal at this point, and about 100 of them have made commitments so far. So we still got a long ways to go here in terms of not just. I'm sure that there will continue to be more people hopping in, but certainly now we're kind of shifting into that phase of who's going where, and especially very intriguing at the quarterback position because other than Cade McNamara going to Iowa, not many of those players have made their decisions. So. Yeah, you're certainly curious every day if some more big names will pop up like Grayson McCall did this week. But now, as we approach signing day and dead period and all that stuff, the visits these guys are taking are really important. And I think we're going to see just a flood of commitments coming here in the next few weeks.
Is there interest in guys like Keaton Slovis and JT Daniels that are, I know they're quarterbacks, but they're very well-traveled?
I don't know about JT. I haven't heard about maybe his situation, and especially I think that's one you probably got to look a little bit closer into, like how do you get him eligible next year and stuff like that. I'm sure that's going to be an interesting process. But I do know, Keaton Slovis has got some good options. He did visit BYU. They've also brought in Drew Pine for a visit. I know he's on the radar for actually going back to the Pac-12. He's on the radar for UCLA and for Oregon State. So I think Keaton Slovis is probably going to end up in a good spot here. Not sure if Jaron Hall's coming back for BYU. That's an interesting question mark. But if you watch Oregon State this season, that was a really good, I believe, 9-win team or 8 or 9-win team that just needed a quarterback. So he could potentially be a good option for them.
Yeah, Jaron Hall's in a boot. He's not going to play in their bowl game, it looks like. But another quarterback, one that made a different move, Max, Austin Reed went into the portal and then came back out of the portal and sticking with Western Kentucky. How did you kind of digest that?
Yeah, I just think the NIL money at Western Kentucky is hard to beat. You know, guys, it's pretty.
That Topper money, man.
I actually think I think some people did step in and take care of him. I think he had posted an ad the same day he announced something like that. So some of these schools can try and do something to try and get a guy to stay. But yeah, the popular belief was that he was probably going to go to Louisville, which could actually be a really good fit with with what Jeff Brom is going to be doing there offensively. But cool to see a guy stay. It's cool to see a guy that is number 2 in the country in passing yards this season, moved up from a lower level at D2 to being really productive at Western Kentucky, and they've got some guys coming back, and I think that's a neat story. Austin Reed, a guy that bet on himself and moving up, and certainly could have gone to Power 5 school, but certainly feels like he's got a chance here to have another great year at Western Kentucky.
We know that players who are being recruited, high school players, they could commit. That doesn't mean people stop trying to get them to change. In fact, we'll see a slew of that, and I have. We will over the next few days. How many times have you learned at all, if you can, how much a player has been contacted prior, a college player, they put their name in the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially in that conversation when it comes to quarterback. And the amount of money that is allegedly getting thrown around and offered, and you never really know how much of that is real and how much of that is exaggerated and stuff. But certainly, like when you call around and you talk to folks and ask them, like, well, hey, who is this school looking at in terms of trying? Like, there are some schools out there that they're trying to go get a transfer quarterback, and so you ask around, like, who are they looking at? And you hear names that aren't even in the portal yet, and we reported them today. Like if you ask around. Sam Hartman's a really popular guy that if he wanted to go in the portal, I think he probably would make a lot of money at his next school. And I think that's the case for Michael Pratt at Tulane as well. These are two guys and there's others out there that people are looking at. You saw Drake May say he's staying, but there's other guys out there that haven't gone in the portal. And you kind of wonder, like, is somebody going to kind of make them an offer they can't refuse? And it doesn't maybe necessarily mean they want to leave where they're at, but we're in a really silly season right now. And as these teams are trying to figure out who's the best guy moving forward for them at quarterback. You're looking at the guys who are on the market, and some of these places are looking at guys who aren't yet on the market.
Max, it's really interesting the amount of, there's some guys who are going to be one and dones, like Devin Leary out there. Sam Hartman certainly would be. Pratt would be. Grayson McCall is. I know that they're marking, Grayson McCall's going to Auburn, but if you look at some of the blue blood teams, and their quarterback depth, like I'll just throw out Ohio State and Alabama. I mean, they wouldn't be maybe against taking a one and done guy to let some of their young guys marinate for a little bit, would they?
Yeah, that's the thing that it's a really tricky balance right now. Like Ohio State, they flipped a quarterback from Washington this week for their 23 class, but that's the thing you're trying to balance. It's like, in that example, it's going to be Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, who are really highly touted guys who've been in that program, competing for that job. So is there someone out there who's a lot better than them? I mean, and if there is, whether they're in the portal or not, is that worth pursuing? Because you know that you're probably going to lose one or both of them if you go in that direction. I think same thing with Alabama. If they're as long as they're holding on to, Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson, and they're bringing in two freshmen in this class, there's some of these programs that still, Georgia too, still kind of trust they've got talented people in the room and they're going to have a good competition, and the best guy who wins is going to be good enough to play at a really high level. But that's always if Drake May were to go in the portal tomorrow, your plans change, right? You probably have a very different conversation about, well, wait a minute, this guy's best player in the ACC. That's what we've got to do. So these are definitely very fluid plans right now, depending on who makes the changes.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. There has not been much even speculation about Dave Aranda and his defensive coordinator. Obviously, they're battling their own transfer portal, trying to either have some coming or going. They got a bowl game a week from today. Have you heard much at all? There was Jim Leonard's name that's out there. That might be too much of a big fish to handle, but have you heard anybody whatsoever?
No, I haven't this week. No, and I mean, it's interesting how these things go, right, guys? Where sometimes, just like we see with players, there's some players that they move on from a program and then suddenly get a lot of offers. It was interesting to see what would happen with Ron Roberts, and I know he was in the mix for Arkansas as well, and ended up going with Auburn. So great to see him land in a good spot. But no, frankly, I haven't heard which way things are leaning there at Baylor with the DC spot.
I know it's not the Big 12, but last night UCLA was given the green light to go to the Big 10, but they're going to have to pay a $2 to $10 million annual subsidy to Cal. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that they would really reverse that. I didn't think that that board and George Klafkoff and those guys were actually going to be able to get UCLA to stay in the conference. But it probably the outcome that everybody expected in terms of, yes, UCLA can go to the Big Ten. Certainly there's some upset people, high up there who want Cal to be compensated in some way. I know they want to make UCLA pay more for the fact that, that there's going to be more, they want them to be paying more for travel and taking care of the student athletes and all that kind of stuff. So about the outcome you'd expect, I just didn't really think there was any Hail Mary way that UCLA was staying in the Pac-12. And I'm not really sure what good that does anybody if you force them to stay in your conference.
Max, A&M's lost 22 guys to the portal. Jimbo's never really been that big of a transfer portal guy, but they've lost 22. I know they're going to bring in another big class. Do you think that he will be more active in the portal this year to try to salve the burn of a 5-7 season?
Yes. Yeah. And that has already been the case. They're definitely in the mix for some guys. In fact, they've got one of the best players in the portal, Tony Grimes, the cornerback from North Carolina, who's been basically a 3-year starter there, really talented player, former 5-star recruit. They've got him on campus for a visit today. A&M has been throwing out more offers to receivers, to DBs, to try and add some players at some of those spots. And certainly between that and the way they'll close their high school class, yeah, they're going to go address that. It's interesting. I mean, I tweeted that yesterday when Smoak Buoy went in, and I don't really mean to single them out because there are going to be a lot of schools that have 20 guys that go in the portal. I think that's just kind of the reality of how this is going right now, especially the schools that have coaching changes. You see a lot of volatility and stuff, but it's a fascinating opportunity for Jimbo Fisher here where, if you want to, it depends on how you look at it, right? Maybe they brought in the wrong kind of players for the culture that they're trying to have there to be more successful. And this is a chance to go replace them with guys that can contribute, or maybe this is just the nature of the beast here when you're recruiting at as high a level as they have, and you've got some 4-star, highly ranked guys that, whether it's 1 year or a couple of years there, aren't getting the playing time or whatever they think they deserve. You're going to see some attrition. And so how they respond and bring in more guys is going to be huge in terms of determining just what are the expectations for A&M in 23, when we all kind of felt a year ago like 23 was the big year for A&M when they really make the run.
Max, just based off your timeline alone, we could ask you another 1,000 questions about portal decisions. I mean, just in original recruiting or plain recruiting. Miami just landed a 5-star offensive tackle, but I wanted to end the combo asking you about Mike Leach and the news earlier this week in regards to his sudden passing. Obviously, it's been an emotional few days for a lot of different people, and I think and hope that he had an idea of how much he was beloved. But if he didn't, I'm sure he's looking down and realizes it now, and certainly his family does. Your thoughts on the passing of Mike Leach?
Yeah, he's just a legend, and it's still even though the news came out over the weekend, and I think we all had a few days to kind of see where this was heading and stuff. It was still it's still hard to process. It's still hard to believe Mike Leach is gone, even if you hear that on Monday morning and you see it coming and stuff. It's still just kind of hard to believe that guy is not with us anymore, and he'll be missed. I mean, he just completely revolutionized how football is played over the last 20 years. One of the great characters in the sport. I had a few opportunities to talk with him on the phone or in person and stuff, and that was just always a treat. And it's so funny, guys. You see everyone over the past few days kind of share. It seems like every media member or whoever has a story about, I needed to call Mike Leach for something for 10 minutes and we talked for 3 hours. It's like, I don't know how he made time in the day in his 61 years to connect with as many people as he did, but it's just amazing that he did. That's just the kind of personality he had, and certainly there's a lot to take away from that in terms of that guy just being so generous with his time and with his interest in literally anything.
We had a guy. I know you got to go. We had a guest on the city. Got a call from Leach at 3:00 in the morning, the day or two before he passed away, just to kind of check in with him on.
He would take phone calls during practice. He didn't care. He's just happy to talk and help people. And what a character. There's just truly a one of one when it comes to coaches in this sport. And there's just really no replacing him.
Max, thank you, as always. Anytime we get you, appreciate it. Thursdays around 4, Max Olson, theathletic.com, their senior college football writer.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there.